opportunity to those who would not otherwise be able to afford to send their children for a different educational model. That is all I have to say. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it. Thank you. I'd next like to recognize Sarah Grow and appreciate that she prints more neatly than her husband when writing her last name.
Thank you. I knew there'd be some reason I was... Okay, my name is Sarah Grow, and I've been involved in local and statewide education issues for 6 years since my children started elementary school. For 6 years, I've been working with parents frustrated at the economic decline in our community that has cut 77 teachers, cut school libraries, cut world languages, closed a school, and redistricted hundreds of children. And yet, I still encourage parents to get involved in the process because their voice matters, although apparently, in regards to this charter application, it does not. This charter application process has been a fiasco from the start. A public hearing that no board member attended, an application so rife with inaccuracies, falsehoods, and misrepresentations as to the status of this district, all of which had been presented to the board and all of which were ignored. Due diligence and transparency were thrown out the window. Where's the process that acknowledged that the applicants were using the same math, same English, same responsive classroom programs that our district already is using? Again, the only new thing they brought to the table was that they were a K-8 and have managed to cut class sizes, something we can't do in this district because of funding. And my children, may I add, are in a class size of 27. The applicant opened up the issue of need when they claimed that the district shunned innovation. As a board member of the Gloucester Education Foundation that has brought over $1 million to the district in 3 short years, I can tell you that that is a flagrant misrepresentation of facts. And again, this was ignored. The biggest slap to this process, besides the 6-5 vote to approve this charter, was that a few weeks ago it took the Freedom of Information Act to reveal that the Charter School Office, the CSO, actually put forth a do not recommend status on this charter school, and yet Mr. Chester still forged ahead to push the BESE to approve this application, with disregard to the application's viability, with disregard to the need, with disregard to public input, with disregard to the misrepresentations and untruths in this application, with disregard to the rebuttal of the merits of this application, with disregard to the financial impact on our fair city, with disregard to our population, with disregard to the following of their own rules and regulations. Disregard to the CSO's comment that this, and I quote, educational program is not fully articulated, nor is there a strong rationale of how this K-8 will enhance educational opportunities. In their own words, the disregard to their own charter offices do not recommend. I am disgusted that it took the Freedom of Information Act to get these documents. Indeed, I can't help but wonder what other smoking guns are out there. Do we have all the paperwork? What happened between the CSO's do not recommend at the end of January and the documentation 2 weeks later that said the GCA had met all the criteria? I would also like to know how many charter schools have got the green light after a CSO ruling of do not recommend. Gloucester and the due process and accountability we expect from our government were shafted during this entire process. I urge you to look at this flagrant rubber stamping of an expensive, unproven, unnecessary and unwanted school that's ultimately a private initiative and ask you to declare this process a complete farce. Do what you can to protect our community from this mandate and tighten the legislation so that we and other communities do not suffer from the same shoddy process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. I'd like to recognize Janet Grover.
My name is Janet Grover, and I'm a resident of Gloucester. I have been for 24 years. I'm also an educator. I have worked in Gloucester Public Schools in some capacities. I have also worked as a teacher at the River Valley Charter School in Newburyport So I bring that perspective. First of all, I would like to thank the people who have come here today for this hearing. I appreciate the process. I wanted to say I particularly appreciated the process that allowed the chairwoman and commissioner to be heard explaining how a charter is granted. And what I wanted to say is I wanted to stand up as a supporter of a charter school. I do not see it as taking away from the people of Gloucester. I want to say that in this process, I'm sorry that there is so much rancor, well, that it has to be an either or people in such great opposition. I see the process of a charter school as contributing to Gloucester. I think some of the people who may today be opposed, when time comes when a child of theirs may need a different sort of educational environment to succeed or to go further, that they will be glad to have that available to them. No matter where the money is coming from, we need to pay to educate each and every child. The money may in this case be following the children rather than following the district. The last point I want to make is that I've heard it mentioned that people do choice out. In that case, I would imagine that the money that would be allotted to that student is just withdrawn with no transitional period. I suspect that a successful charter school may encourage more people to return to Gloucester and would also allow some support financially while transitioning. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize Jim Dowd.
Good evening. My name is Jim Dowd. I'm a parent. Thank you all for being here this evening. I want to start by saying that I'm a believer in government's ability to do good. It's what I teach my kids, that government's here to do good. That's why we have leaders, to make decisions for the benefit of everyone. I think this is why I'm particularly galled by what's going on here with the proposed charter this evening. And I don't think it's a false dichotomy to say that either the process that the Board of Education used is corrosively dysfunctional or this was a fix. To me, it increasingly looks like we are going to wind up with a charter no matter what anyone said, no matter what anyone did, that unwritten regulation, the idea that because there's a political support for charter schools, we needed to have one, regardless of need for Gloucester. And there's a lot of evidence, we've heard a lot of evidence, I don't want to reiterate stuff that people have already said, but the flouting of the law I find particularly disheartening. I think the stifling of discussion because someone had to catch a plane, assumedly they were going to Springfield, not somewhere out of state. What else would have Mr. Frontman, who said, this here is another thing that really gets my goat here. He praises, Mr. Frontman, during the award of the charter, praises the work of the Office of the Charter School, saying, and I quote, we have a charter school office that's a very good track record. They have a national reputation. I'm confident the charter school office has done their homework. Well, they did. And I want to know what happened between their homework and the time the homework was turned in. Gloucester is at best nominally over the population. We've heard a lot about that. I want to know why extra care wasn't given. If we are close, even if it is, I'll cede, maybe we are over 30,000. I don't think so. But if we are over 30,000, why wasn't extra care given then? Geez, these guys are right in the line. Maybe we ought to think about putting a little extra care into this. But it doesn't look like extra care was put in. And either to me that says apathy or a fix. And that fix is because there's political pressure to approve some charter, any charter, not a great charter, not the right charter to meet Gloucester's needs, just a charter that would bow to the pressure for the governor's office for fear of not being viewed as sufficiently pro-charter. So it follows then that the taxpayers of the state, and particularly we citizens of Gloucester, are being massively disserviced by the people who are supposed to be stewards of our interests. And that means the process and the law were dumped over the side for political optics. And, you know, when I go to